Part 108. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 1102. It's nothing. I just haven't seen you these days. I'm so confused. I want to see you as soon as possible. Mrs. Joe stepped forward and grabbed Sun's wife's arm and looked her up and down. Why do you look like you've lost weight again? Xia, you are eating alone now and sharing it between 3 people, so you have to be more careful, or you may regret it when you are older. It's because Grandma always hopes that I'll gain weight, so she thinks I've lost weight again. Chu Xia held the old lady's arm affectionately. In fact, not only did I not lose weight, I also gained a pound. Really? Old Mrs. Joe looked her up and down in disbelief. You're so skinny and you've gained a pound, aren't you lying to me, old lady, and your eyes are dazzled? Do I dare to lie to you? Chu Xia looked at her mother-in-law. Mom, take a closer look at me. Do I feel a little fat? How can I tell if I'm a pound? Lin Yangqiu smiled helplessly. If I can tell if I'm even a pound of fat, then my eyes are really not far from being dazzling. Hee hee. After laughing twice, Chu Xia still couldn't help but ask, Grandma and Mom are so anxious to come over to me. Is there really nothing else to do? You wouldn't believe me if I said it wasn't there, would you? Old Mrs. Joe asked. Of course I'll believe you if you say that again, but I'm just curious. You and Mom were never so anxious to come to me before. Oh. She slapped her forehead. Wrong, come here too. You passed me once, but I was pregnant with the baby at that time, and you were worried about me. Now, the baby has been at home, so there doesn't seem to be anything to worry about, right? She said while looking at a few people inquiringly. A good sister. Several people turned their heads away in unison, joking. Mother-in-law and daughter-in-law are showing affection. What are they doing fooling around? You kid. Old Mrs. Joe shook her head. It seems you still think your mother-in-law and I are not good enough to you. If your mother said so, she definitely wouldn't have such doubts. Chu Xia defended with a look of helplessness. Grandma, you are wronging me by saying this. I think I am such an old person and Xiaoxiang Daodu is with me. Why should you and Mom be worried? Besides, my mother and Grandma were never so anxious to see me when they came over before. I automatically thought that something had happened at home. This was purely a conditioned reflex. Mrs. Joe snorted. Then tell me, if this matter happened to your mother and your father today, would you have so many thoughts? Grandma. Chu Xia shook her head in a funny way. You are really making things difficult for me. You also know how my parents treat me. If it were them, they would definitely come running over. Isn't this the end? Old Mrs. Joe spread her hands. It means that we should treat you differently. You still think that your mother-in-law and I are not good enough to you. So, your mother-in-law and I must work harder in the future. What Mom said is that we still have to work hard. After such a comparison, I feel that what I did is really not good enough. If Xiaomi knew about it, I would definitely feel uncomfortable. That is, he left his daughter-in-law to us to take care of her, but we didn't take good care of her. Can he feel comfortable? Yes, Mom, you still see the problem clearly. Chu Xia looked at the old woman and her mother-in-law who were singing together with a speechless expression. After a long while, she sighed, Grandma, Mom, just spare me, okay? Luo Xiaoxiang and Jun Daodu, who were following behind, were almost hurt from holding back their laughter. Jun Qiaoqiao looked at a few people curiously, and then interjected, in early summer, Grandma Zhou and Aunt Zhou kissed you so much, why do you want them to spare you? Don't you like others treating you well? Yes, don't you like us being nice to you? In other words, people who are nice to you must also be able to win your eyes. Old Mrs. Joe patted Lin Yangqiu's shoulder and sighed, look at us, how can we be nice to you? If we hadn't talked like this, I really wouldn't know how annoying I would be. It seems that grandma and mom were stimulated by something. Chuxia shrugged. He looked at the two of them, her sister-in-law, Yanyan, and Aunt Jian back too. Mrs. Joe smiled and said, "Why change the topic? Our problem has not been solved yet. My question is the same as the one I just asked. I just want to know if something happened to my sister-in-law, which irritated my mother and grandma." "You kid." Old Mrs. Joe nodded her head and laughed. "Indeed, your mother and I were stimulated, but not by your sister-in-law. Didn't I go back this time to help your sister-in-law deal with her mother's household registration issue? The matter went smoothly. From now on, your Aunt Jian will live with your sister-in-law and them, which can be regarded as taking away one of your sister-in-law's worries. As a result, when I was walking back, I met your sister-in-law's high school classmate named Li Xinmei. She had a good relationship with your sister-in-law back then, so we took her and chatted for a while. At first glance, the girl seemed to be well educated and well mannered, and she was leading a 4 or 5-year-old boy. However, when your sister-in-law asked, she found out that she was divorced and that the child's father visited the child once a month. When asked about the reason for their divorce, they said that since they got married, the elders of the husband's family had disliked her a little. Later, after giving birth to a son, they were only kind to the child and were still lukewarm towards her. Originally, she wanted to just make do with it, but a female classmate with whom she was originally very good transferred her job and worked directly in the same office as her. She discovered that her parents-in-law and husband were really nice. After getting along for a long time, the more she smacked, the more she felt that she could no longer stay in that home, so she filed for divorce from the husband's family. The child was only 1 year old at the time. Considering the actual situation, the child was awarded to her. When your mother and I went back, we reflected on ourselves and felt that what we had done was very inadequate. Fortunately, it is not too late to make amends. As long as we work hard, you will definitely regard your mother and me as our own grandmothers and mothers. Grandma, Mom. Chuxia looked at the two of them speechlessly. You guys really have nothing to do, and you are willing to do anything for yourself. Both I and my sister-in-law feel that it is our blessing to meet elders like Grandma and Mom. How can we think that you are treating us badly? As for you, if we go even faster, we won't know where to put our hands and feet. Everything must have a limit. If it goes beyond the limit, everyone will be uncomfortable. So, I still hope that Grandma and Mom will treat me like they did before. This kid is trying to be nice to you, but he still resists." Old Mrs. Joe shook her head and looked at Lin Yangqiu. "What do you say? You came up with this idea, and I just played along with you, so, now the idea is still up to you to take it yourself. Mom, you have always been the protagonist, okay? How can you be called a sideshow?" Mrs. Joe waved her hand impatiently. "Okay, no matter who is the protagonist, tell me what you plan to do." Listen to Chuxia. Lin Yangqiu sighed. "We are also over the top." When Chuxia said this just now, I think we are a little too sensitive. If nothing else, based on the personalities of Chuxia and Yutao in our family, coupled with their relationship as a young couple, things like that will never happen to that family. Let's do whatever the children feel comfortable with. Mom, what do you think? Then I'll listen to you. Old Mrs. Joe smiled and patted Chuxia on the shoulder. From now on, you will be the boss of our family. Your mother and I will do whatever you say. Chuxia waved her hands repeatedly. Grandma, we can't say this. No matter how shameless I am, I can't think that I am the boss. Mrs. Joe curled her lips and said, I meant that you have the final say on matters concerning you, and I didn't say that you have the final say on everything in the family. Why are you so eager to extrapolate? Chuxia. Are there any elders who bully others like this? Did Grandma and Mom nag you? After dinner, while the elders were chatting, Yutao took Chuxia back to the room and closed the door tightly before asking. Chusia nodded, it's a bit abnormal. I asked them and they said it was because they met my sister-in-law's classmates and they were stimulated, but I still think it's a bit exaggerated. Yu Tao sighed, there is indeed that reason. You don't know. These days at home, my mother and grandma are so enthusiastic about me that I don't know what to do. They just put food into my mouth. Although they didn't say it, I guessed that it must have something to do with Mei Xiaofeng's marriage. Although I knew that nothing would happen between us, I still couldn't help but worry for a while. Especially you, the third child is not at home, and you are raising 2 children alone. They are not worried that you will have any unfavorable intentions, but they are afraid that they will wrong you and make you disappointed in this family. I've already tried to persuade them, but they were very polite and they still went their own way. I was just afraid that you wouldn't understand the situation and didn't know what to do, so I asked you to talk to me. Grandma and Mom both promised not to be so overly enthusiastic, but we have to wait and see for a few days to see what happens. Hey. Sighing, Chusia said helplessly, I can't blame them for being affected. Zhou Yiping, Zhou Zhonkong, and Zhou Nanping had problems one after another. They didn't say anything, but they were still worried. Especially during this period of time, the fighting was fierce, and Zhou Mikang wouldn't be back for a while, so they were even more worried. After all, given my age, it was normal for them to be worried about me. In fact, sometimes I feel terribly panicked, but what can I do? Apart from pretending to be extra calm and trying my best to reassure my family, I really had no other choice. As long as he doesn't come back safely, I can't let go. At this time, I don't have the heart to think about this or that, but I can't talk about this kind of topic with my grandma and mom, so I can only do this. Stop being so awkward. No matter how close we are, if we spend enough time with them, if something happens, they will inevitably think more and worry more. I won't blame them, sister-in-law, don't worry. R1152. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 1103. The second update arrives today. After being told what was on her mind by Chusia, Yu Tao smiled coquettishly, actually, I didn't hide it from you on purpose. In fact, they are indeed more enthusiastic towards me than before. Especially Grandma, who used to be such an arrogant person, now tries every means to please us, which makes me feel really uncomfortable. Sister-in-law, you have been married into this family for so many years, and you should have a rough idea of the temperament of the elders. Sometimes, some things that we think are burdens are actually a way for them to relieve stress. There is no need to give them up yesterday. They are the same as before, a little closer, which is actually not a bad thing. As long as this kind of closeness is not deliberately lowering your status to please us, I can accept it, sister-in-law. After a pause, Chusia looked at her seriously, you can consider my suggestion. Okay, Yu Tao smiled and nodded. I discovered that although I am so much older than you and I am your sister-in-law, when it comes to making decisions, I am really far behind you. I feel uneasy at home these days. In fact, looking back, after I said it, their attitude towards me was not so deliberate. However, I can't help but compare their current attitude towards me with the past, and then naturally I will think more about it, which will make me feel more uneasy. Hey, when I heard you say this, I was really ashamed. Why didn't I think of this level? Or maybe Grandma and Mom just want their relationship with us to be like Jiping and Xiangping. You can hug your neck and make love, or you can say anything. If you say the wrong thing, you don't have to worry about the other party thinking too much, being sensitive, or being unhappy. In fact, this is the best relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, right? Of course, I believe everyone hopes that the relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law can be like this, but under normal circumstances, it is really difficult to achieve this. The elders in our family have always been very kind to us, and have never treated us as outsiders. They are even kinder and more tolerant than they are to their own children. However, it is this kindness and tolerance that explains the difference between a daughter-in-law and a daughter. Sometimes, the more casual, the closer we are. I hope that one day our relationship with grandma and mother-in-law can really be like that of the second sister. Like fourth sister. Yes, as long as we realize it, it will be possible. As she said that, Yu Tao couldn't help but sigh. Nanping is a completely different person now. It would be great if Iping and Zhongkang could also figure it out. I really don't dare to say whether Zhou Iping can figure it out, but Zhou Zhongkang probably won't figure it out for a while. He kept saying that he suffered a lot when he was fostered, but I feel that the family who adopted him back then, it's too much for him. Judging from his personality today, he clearly feels that others should treat him well. As long as what he gives is slightly less than what he wants, it means that others are wrong. As for how he will repay you, is that the case? A selfish character who only knows how to take without knowing anything in return will never be formed by being overly harsh. What you said is right. If he is overly harsh, he may feel unhappy. However, as long as his family sincerely cares about him and he can feel their care, he should change. And now he is simply out of luck. In my opinion, if you put him in the position of third brother, he will be given whatever he wants, and the family will support him, then he will be truly worthy of him. Yes, that's the feeling. Mei Xiaofeng will turn around and leave anyone who loves him so much. Just think about how much he has gone too far. From the perspective of the Zhou family, we really hope that he can have a happy life. In the future, from a rational perspective, I still think Mei Xiaofeng's current approach is the most correct. A person who is selfish to the core. It is impossible to change easily and truly care about others. Maybe what I said is a bit absolute, but when he really wants to understand, he may spend his whole life in it. It's not worth spending the short decades of my life for such a person. Speaking of this, Chu Xia couldn't help laughing and said, "Look, this is the difference between a daughter-in-law and a daughter." If the second sister and the fourth sister must have known that Mei Xiaofeng was very disappointed after getting married. Yes, so this kind of relationship is mutual. First, we must fully integrate into it, so that the other party can truly feel that sense of security. Brothers and sisters, let's remind each other and work together, okay? Okay, the two of them slapped each other hard and reached an agreement. Chu Xia changed the topic. Have the affairs at home and sister-in-law been solved smoothly? Well, of course they weren't willing to do it. They had no choice but to ask my dad to help me. Since my family had problems with their jobs, they were scared. After all, having a job is more secure than being homeless. Well, if they can force my sister-in-law to do this, they are really capable. Then Aunt Jian. My mother is fine. Yu Tao sighed and smiled bitterly. It's impossible for you to make her happy, after all, it's the place where she has lived for half her life. I originally planned to live there for the rest of my life. If it weren't for me, my mother would definitely be reluctant to leave. She is such a nostalgic person, so this also shows that my position in my mother's heart is really higher than I imagined. Still important. I used to think that my mother was partial to my brother and that she favored boys over girls. In fact, the way she sometimes favored boys over girls was just to make it easier for me to live in that family. I also had a deep talk with my mother when I came to the capital this time. She was actually still worried that her mother-in-law and the others would be unhappy. It was only after I persuaded her for a long time that she agreed to come to the capital with me. Otherwise, my mother wants to rent a house by herself and live alone. You said she is so old, how can I let her rent a house by herself and live outside? My mother gave up her life for me. If I let her live on the street again, it would be worse than a pig or a dog. Later, I said that if she moved out, I would go with her, so she refused. Therefore, it is still a long and arduous task for her to truly integrate into this big family. She seems to have a gentle personality, but in fact, she is stubborn. It's all the same. Aren't my parents like that? If they didn't have only me as their daughter, and they were worried that I wouldn't do well in my husband's family, they wouldn't come over to stay with me. Now, I finally truly believe it, and I will no longer have the thought of returning to my hometown and leaving myself here. The same goes for my grandma and grandpa. You see, their current state is different from before, right? Yes, I used to feel uncomfortable when talking to your grandparents, but I don't feel comfortable anymore. We feel very comfortable when we communicate. I hope my mother can reach the state earlier, then I will really feel relieved. In fact, after this matter was resolved, Josei Kang just wanted me to stay in City A. I thought so at first, but after seeing my mother's appearance, I decided to come to the capital to live for a while. People are really strange. Although they are boarding everywhere, my mother is obviously more relaxed here than in City A. Perhaps, in her heart, Uncle Baohee and Aunt Yulan are the ones she can truly trust. Chu Xia laughed. We can't let Grandma and Mom hear this, they will be heartbroken to death. Yu Tao looked at Chu Xia helplessly. I'm not stupid, why would I tell them such a thing? In the blink of an eye, more than 3 months have passed. Luo Xiaoxiang and Jun Daodu are both pregnant for nearly 8 months, and they have nothing to do with each other in class. As for whether they should give birth in the capital or in City A, several parents studied it, coupled with the statements of Mrs. Zhou and Lin Yangkaiu, and finally obeyed the opinions of Luo Xiaoxiang and Jun Daodu and continued to stay in the capital to wait for the birth. The main reason is that all their prenatal checkups in the past few months have been done in the capital, and there are top experts here. Relatively speaking, staying in the capital is much safer than going to City A, and the two of them have their hearts in mind. If you want to be with good friends, it is better to follow their wishes and make them feel better than to follow the arrangements in a depressed way. R1152. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 1104. In 3 months, Zhou Mikang called back twice and told Chu Xia that they wouldn't be able to come back in a short time, but there was no danger, so everyone could rest assured. Having said that, how can the family members who stayed behind really feel relieved? Fortunately, this was no longer a topic to worry about. The whole family comforted each other and lived happily. Lulian Bao has basically recovered and has no problem walking, but running and jumping is temporarily impossible, and even if he recovers completely, he will not be able to be a military attaché again. This news made him depressed for a few days. Fortunately, with Zhao Qiui's comfort and the admission notice from GF University, his future was destined to be bright, which quickly rekindled his fighting spirit. After these few months of getting along, Qian Yan and Ji Gang have become more harmonious than before, and Ji Gang is not as submissive as before and is inferior to Qian Yan in everything. At first, Chu Xia was wondering why he suddenly changed. Later, after talking to Qian Yan, she found out that Qian Yan had a deep talk with him specifically, hoping that he could get along with her on an equal footing. Ji Gang also said that the reason why he acted inferior to Yanyi was not because of her family background, but because he thought she was such a good girl. She didn't care about him because he had nothing, and she was willing to be with him without anything in return. He could only put his position as low as possible and give her enough care and protection. Qian Yan told him that the love she wanted was not to take care of her with a repayment mentality, but that two people felt warm when they saw each other, wanted to be together all the time, take care of each other, and were inseparable. And this has one premise is equality. Otherwise, one day, two people will be out of balance, one who is favored will be out of balance, and the other who is giving will be out of balance, and what awaits them in the end may be a true falling apart. Therefore, after that in-depth conversation, Ji Gang changed his attitude towards Qian Yan, and he also worked harder and his mental state was completely different. And Aunt Qian is no longer as cautious as she was when she first came here, looking like she was afraid of doing something wrong. Now she has gotten along particularly well with fat Aunt Zhao Yulan. Mrs. Zhou and Lin Yangkai also noticed Aunt Qian's scruples. Every once in a while when they returned to City A, they would quietly ask Yu Tao if they wanted to come with them. If Yu Tao didn't come back, they wouldn't even mention it to Aunt Qian, so as not to let Aunt Qian think too much. However, when we go back together, Aunt Qian will secretly visit her son and daughters. As a mother, you can never be really cruel. As for Mrs. Zhou and Lin Yangkai, after a period of excessive enthusiasm, they finally found a suitable way to get along with each other. They no longer deliberately ignored anything like before, nor were they as deliberately enthusiastic as before. After a long time, the relationship really becomes closer. Sometimes Chu Xia and Yu Tao would also joke with them, just like Zhou Jiping and Zhou Xiangping, regardless of the scruples between the elders and the younger ones. At such times, the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law were happy to look the other way. Luo Xiaoxian followed Zhao Qiui's suggestion and specially invited Li Aiwan. This time, Li Aiwan did not come, saying that her daughter-in-law had so many relatives and friends in the capital to accompany her, so she had nothing to worry about, so she would not come to join in the fun. If she really wanted to come, it is also when the grandson, daughter, is born, she will take on the responsibilities of a mother-in-law. More than a month later, Luo Xiaoxian and Jun Daodu gave birth to a baby boy respectively, both of which were natural births. Now, Chu Xia's family was really busy. Fat Aunt originally stayed here, but Li Aiwan and Lan Alien also rushed over. Suddenly, the capital was more lively than the city A. Luo Xiaoxian and Jun Daodu were bombarded with various kinds of soup from their elders every day. At first, they tried their best to satisfy the elders' requests and refused to give them soup. After only 5 days, they couldn't bear it anymore. The 2 little babies are not hungry. But the 2 mothers are gaining weight at a speed that is visible to the naked eye. Chu Xia, did your elders ask you to do the same when you were born? Luo Xiaoxian pulled Chu Xia's arm with a bitter look on her face and sighed, my waist is already 2 feet 5. If you continue to eat like this, I will wait for you. I guess you won't even recognize me when I come back. Me too. Jun Daodu, who was sitting on the other big bed, also had a sad look on his face, I don't dare to look in the mirror now. When I go to the toilet at night, I avoid the mirror. Qiuqiu looked at me yesterday and kept sighing, saying that if I kept getting fatter, she would not dare to sleep in the same bed with me, for fear that I would fall on top of her and crush her half to death. You are too exaggerated. Chu Xia shook her head in amusement, compared to before, you two have indeed gained a lot of weight, but you are not as exaggerated as Daodu said. Xiaoxian weighed exactly 109 kilograms before she was pregnant. She was 152 kilograms when she gave birth. Now she is 126 kilograms. She is a little fat, but not exaggerated. Daodu, you were 105 kilograms before you were pregnant and 145 kilograms when you gave birth. Now you are 126 kilograms. At 121 pounds, it can be considered a little fat, but if you want to crush someone to death, you have to work hard. You think you are fat now because you expected to lose weight after giving birth to the baby, but in fact it will not happen that fast. It will take at least a month for the belly to be retracted. You can measure it again after 1 month. The soup I cooked for you has all the oil removed, and the food is not particularly greasy. If you two continue to be so entangled, the elders will really be sad and disappointed. In order to keep you two in good health and your children in good health, they spend hours thinking of various ways to cook what you like to eat, but you are so sad. Think about it from your perspective. If it were you, would you be happy? But I remember that you lost weight a week after giving birth to Nan Nan Bebe Luo Zioxian looked at Chu Xia with a troubled face. Is it possible that God is so unfair that there is such a big gap between us in this kind of thing? You. Chu Xia rolled her eyes. It's not like you can't tell I'm wearing loose clothes. How can you know if I have any flesh on my body? Anyway, you are not as fat as the two of us. I squeezed your waist with my hands and you are not fatter at all than before. Sighing, Jun Daodu looked at Luo Zioxian. There should be a little more. We are fatter than Chu Xia. I'm older, so I won't recover as quickly as Chu Xia. There's nothing we can do about it, so let's not get entangled in it. In early summer, I had black streaks on my head. I was really convinced. A person who is only 22 years old said that the slow recovery was due to age. What would the future generations say to those who gave birth to children in their 30s? However, girls all love beauty, and they will inevitably worry about whatever she says now. After a while, they will adapt to the state and become closer to their children, and they will not be so entangled. Whether it is the custom of my hometown in early summer or the custom of City A, when the child is 1 month old, the relatives of the grandpa's family will be invited to have a big gathering. Therefore, as soon as the full moon comes out, these big families will gather in great numbers. Set off. Although Zhao Qiliang was not here, Luo Zioxian was the daughter-in-law of the Zhao family. Of course, the child's full moon ceremony had to be held by the Zhao family. Therefore, after arriving in Sitia for a short rest, the Chuxia family followed Luo Zioxian and his party to Xiaolin village. Everyone knows that Zhao Qiliang went to the front line as a soldier. He hasn't come back for so long, and there are all kinds of rumors. Fortunately, Zhao Yishan is now the deputy secretary of the town. There are some things that others dare not say in front of him, but occasionally the compassion in his eyes can still be seen. Zhao Yishan felt very uncomfortable about this, but this is also human nature. There may not be anything wrong with others looking forward to Qiliang, but the battle is so fierce and it is broadcast on the radio every day. It is inevitable that everyone will make random guesses, even if they see that everyone what can he say? Therefore, the birth of his grandson finally made him feel proud. Brother, seeing how happy you are, you're grinning from ear to ear. Second uncle Zhang Qiujun looked at the joyful expression on his elder uncle's face and couldn't help but tease him. Zhao Yishan smiled proudly. Can you be unhappy? The roots of the old Zhao family are established. Even if I leave now, there will be no regrets. You have to urge Xiaoqing to hold on tight. It's not too small. Always swinging like this, what does it look like? Brother, Xiaoqing and Chu Xia are 1 year old. They are a few months younger than Chu Xia. Why aren't they younger? Zhang Qiujun shook his head helplessly. If Xiaoqing hears this, he will really fall out with you too. He himself said that he would have a career before starting a family. If you let him start a family now, in his opinion, you are ruining his future. Haha. Zhao Yishan smiled sheepishly. I mean, Xiaoqing is not old enough to find a partner yet, but I am not saying this because I am afraid that my child will fall out with me. I think this kid is a promising kid. His brother-in-law had everything taken care of for him, but he insists on working hard to get into college and make a career on his own. Based on this, he will be designated in the future. Not bad. I hope. Zhang Qiujun sighed. This child has been spoiled since he was a child. He has too many ideas about everything. I can't persuade him even if I want to. I just hope that he will never go astray in the future. Don't worry, Xiaoqing is a sensible kid. He is more lively than his brother. He will definitely not be worse than his brother in the future. Just keep it in your heart. Looking at the time, Zhao Yishan stood up. I guess a bunch of them will be home soon. I'll go back first. You can give me a day off. Zhang Qiujun nodded. Okay, you go back first. I'll take Yukui and Xiaoqing with me after work. Secretary Xiao Lu, the clerk, hurried over. I just got a call from the county, saying that County Magistrate Lu has come down for investigation and may come to us, so we should be prepared to welcome him. Why is he so fond of doing this? Zhang Qiujun frowned. I just came here last week, and now I'm coming again. I don't know what I want to investigate. Then what should I do? Zhao Yushan was also worried. It doesn't seem appropriate if I'm not here, right? There's nothing inappropriate. You're leaving. Zhang Qiujun waved his hand, but you haven't seen them for so long, and Qi Liang is on a mission again. I don't believe what they can do if you take this half-day off. R1152. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 1105. The second update is here. It was Nuan's mother's birthday the day before yesterday. She went back to her hometown. She just came back today. Nuan wants her to be healthy and live a long life. I'm afraid that if the leader is dissatisfied, he will blame you. Zhao Yushan looked at Zhang Qiujun with some embarrassment. Originally, our relationship has been criticized by many people. If the leader calls him out again. Sighed. He waved his hand and said, forget it, we don't miss this afternoon. Anyway, the child will celebrate the full moon ceremony the day after tomorrow. Brother, please go back. After a pause, Zhang Qiujun said with a smile, brother is definitely thinking about his grandson now. When it comes to his eldest grandson, Zhao Yushan gets excited. Your sister-in-law said that he looks exactly like Qi Liang when he was a child, but he is much prettier than Qi Liang, and his voice lights up when he howls. Okay, brother is not in the mood to work here, go back quickly, the leader has to be humane. Zhang Qiujun lowered his voice, if he can't do image projects, we can't do anything. After hesitating for a while, unable to resist the longing in his heart, Zhao Yushan nodded and responded, okay, then I'll go back first. You can bring Yukui and Xiaoshan to my house in the evening. No matter how unconscious we are, we can't wait until the day of the full moon ceremony to eat and drink at home for free. Brother, don't worry, we must go. Yukui was not very sensible before, so now she has to be given a chance to make up for it. How can she not be allowed to help with her grandnephew's full moon gift? Zhao Yushan shook his head helplessly. Ewan is not at home these days, it's all thanks to Yukui who takes care of me. If you say that again, you will be unjust to her. I was just joking with my eldest brother. Why did he take it so seriously? No matter whether she has improved or not, she and I are both brothers and sisters. How can he bear grudge against her? Having said that, I will say one more thing. He walked to the door, looked around for no one, and closed the door tightly. Zhang Qiujun walked back and lowered his voice and said, brother, you really need to change your character. Otherwise, it will definitely affect the future. At this age, what do I have to fear? Zhao Yushan sighed, I admit that my personality is a bit rigid, but I am not confused. Moreover, I can respect my conscience, solve problems with jokes, and always make appropriate concessions. I don't like it? Brother, we'll talk about this later. You'd better go home first. Maybe Yukui has passed by first. If I really guess it, brother will go to the village committee and call me to inform me. I'll come after get off work. If you don't want to go home, just go to school and take Xiaoqing there. Okay, knowing that it was not time to dwell on whether his personality was suitable for politics, Zhao Yushan readily agreed and decided to go home first. Sister-in-law and the others seemed to be back today. Let's go over and take a look now. Lin Xiahua finally couldn't help but speak after taking a look at her husband who was sitting silently on the kong. Why are we going? Zhao Yushui sighed heavily, what dignity do we have to go? All the children in the family are trying to live up to their expectations. Only Arkian is like this. If we go, we will attract those gossipy women. With the sister-in-law's character, if she hears those people's comments, she will definitely fight with them. It's a happy day for the elder brother and sister-in-law's family, so let's not bring trouble to them. What's wrong with Kian? Lin Xiahua frowned and stared at her husband. The girls who get married in our village don't do as many things as Kian. Why don't they still go back to their parents' homes and attend weddings at their parents' homes? Why do you do that? Do you think our Kian is embarrassed? Zhao Yushui glared at his wife. Back then, I didn't drag the man around the village to show off that I had found a high official. The child already knows that he was wrong, his personality is different from before, and life is getting better and better. Why are you still nagging about these things? Who has never been young? Who didn't have a little vanity when they were young? Especially someone like Arkian. In terms of appearance, she can't compare with Chu Xia, and in terms of work, she can't compare with Chi Hui. Can she not be hit? She is not showing off to show off to her family, she just wants outsiders to think that Kian, who is nothing in their eyes, is married to a good man. In fact, Lu Zhenqiang was really obedient to her at that time. How could he have imagined that such things would happen later? Sighing, Lin Xiahua shook her head. Actually speaking, Arkian is still too soft-hearted to let Lu Zhenqiang go free so easily. The people in our village are also shameless. Even if they know that Qian married the wrong person, they just pretend to be confused. Why do they have to come to us to ask? Yushui, this time we will go no matter what. Otherwise, we really won't be able to hold our heads high in the village in the future. At least, let's use the face of our eldest brother, sister-in-law, nephews and nieces to give ourselves some face, okay? Even if you don't think about yourself, you still have to think about your daughter. If we just hide like this, who can find her a husband? We can't really let our children live with us for the rest of their lives, right? It's okay while we are alive, but one day we will leave her alone. What do you want her to do at that time? I found some clothes for you. Come put on a piece and go over. I don't have the nerve to go. Zhao Yushui still insisted on his opinion and sat there without moving. You. Lin Xiahua looked at her husband helplessly. She didn't know what to do. She didn't dare to do anything against her husband's opinion now. The door of the west room opened, and Zhao Qian stood at the door with a guilty look on her face. Father, mother, I have embarrassed you, otherwise, I'd better find a place to work. No, Lin Xiahua grabbed her daughter anxiously. Yan'er, Mom must not let you go out alone. If something happens again, Mom will never be able to survive in this life. If others want to gossip, let them do it. Anyway, there will be no less meat. On your uncle's side, your sister and your brother are both prosperous, let alone your sister-in-law. Mom knows that Mom did not do well in the past, but she is just a girl like you, and asking you to stay at home like this from now on makes Mom feel like she is fried. You listen to Mom and spend more time with Kiwi Chuxia and the others. It's not that we're asking for any benefits, it's just to show off to outsiders. After all, we are a family, and there will always be thoughtful people who come to our house to propose marriage. When the time comes, we will choose the right one to marry. I'm not afraid to be someone's stepmother. As long as I treat their children well and treat them sincerely, my children will also treat you well. Listen to your mother and stop being bored at home, okay? Mom. Zhao Qian smiled bitterly. Have I not been hurt enough? How can I rush to be someone's stepmother? She sighed heavily and looked out the window with a lonely face. Actually, what do outsiders say about me? It really doesn't matter, I just hope that my father and mother won't look down on me. How could mother look down on you? Li Aiwan said while poking her husband. Please tell your children what you think. Don't let them think blindly. What ideas can I have? Zhao Yishan frowned and looked at his wife. She is so old, she should think about some things. What's the use of just coaxing her? Lin Xiahua winked at her husband anxiously. She was worried that her daughter would take another detour. At this time, she could even coax her daughter. As long as she could have the confidence to live well and still have hopes for future happiness, she has nothing to worry about. She believes that her daughter has not yet recovered from the harm caused by Lu Zhenqiang in a short period of time. As long as time lasts longer, her daughter will be able to let go of everything. Speaking of which, Lu Zhenqiang is also trash. When his daughter divorced him, he gritted his teeth and said that he would never be good to any other woman except his daughter in this life. The result was good. I completed the formalities with my daughter and got married to the woman the next month. The point is, if you get married, get married. Why do you want to stab someone whose heart bleeds? What does it mean to write and send news about yourself every once in a while? If she hadn't always stopped the letters in advance, her daughter's mood might have been so bad. She must talk to her little sister about this. She doesn't want Chu Xia to let her man do anything to Lu Zhenqiang, but it's still right to show him how powerful he is. Are you having trouble with your eyes? Zhao Yishui looked at his wife who kept winking at him, with a look of impatience on his face. It's clear that you are talking nonsense. You were like this before, why are you still like this now? Too lazy to continue arguing with her husband, Lin Xiahua walked to the door and pulled her daughter out. Let's go to Grandma's house and have a look. I think your aunt and others will be back soon. Looking back at his wife and daughter, Zhao Yishui did not force them to stay. Indeed, he was embarrassed to go to his eldest brother's house for some reasons of shame, but in his heart, he was actually hoping that his daughter could get some light. No matter how wrong her daughter has been in the past, she is still his biological daughter. If he gives up helping her, who else will think of helping her? He won't be as obvious as his wife, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't love his daughter. In the past, his liver was indeed hurt by his daughter's anger, but now, it has been replaced by heartache. When Lin Xiahua and Zhao Qian arrived, Chu Xia and others' car happened to stop at the door. Dad, mother, sister-in-law, little sister, Chu Xia, Xiaoxian. While saying hello, Lin Xiahua approached Li Aiwan who was holding the child, lifted the corner of the quilt and looked. Let me see my great-nephew. Oh, he looks exactly like Qi Liang when he was a child. Look at the high bridge of his nose, look at his big eyes. This younger brother and sister were not lovable before, but why are they still so reckless now? Li Aiwan sighed helplessly. Brothers and sisters, Long Long has just given birth and cannot see the wind. Oh. Lin Xiahua had a look on her face. She had really forgotten about this incident just now. The key point was that she had also given birth to a child. Such a performance at this time made her even more embarrassed. In the car behind, Nan and Bai Bei were picked up together. Looking at the twins who were even prettier than New Year picture dolls, Lin Xiahua rubbed her hands and walked over, wanting to reach out and hug them. Thinking of her previous behavior, she felt a little embarrassed and looked embarrassed. Standing there stiffly, R1152. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 1106. Update 2. Niang, Sister Qian, it's such a coincidence that you guys came here after not seeing each other for more than half a year. Lin Xiahua had aged a lot, she sighed secretly. Chu Xia took the initiative to say hello to the two of them, then picked up Nan and raised it in front of Lin Xiahua. Second mother, do you want to hug him? Hey. Lin Xiahua responded repeatedly, taking the big fat boy that made her eyes so hot. Her eyes narrowed into slits with a smile. It didn't necessarily mean how close she was to Nanan, but Chu Xia, her attitude made her feel relieved. Second sister-in-law, where is second brother? Zhao Yulan stepped forward and asked. He thinks he is embarrassed, but he can't come here. Lin Xiahua smiled bitterly and told the truth. Zhao Qian stretched out her hand to Zhao Yulan, sister-in-law, can you let me hug you? Zhao Yulan looked at the grinning little guy in her arms and discussed, Bai, can I let my second aunt hold me for a while? The little guy looked away from his brother's face and turned to Zhao Qian, looking at him, his mouth tightened, and he howled wow. Zhao Qian retracted his stretched out hand in embarrassment, with a sneer on his face. Sister Qian, Niang is hugging Nan Nan. He doesn't recognize life. Now you hug him. This little bastard Bai won't follow anyone except the people he is very familiar with. Chu Xia said while reaching out to poke Wow Wow. The little guy howled for a long time without even a single tear coming out. Bai, who was howling energetically, thought his mother was teasing him, and immediately changed from crying to laughing, gaga with joy. Shameless, crying and laughing at the same time. After teasing his son, Chu Xia urged a few people to go in. There were really too many people surrounding them. From the look in their eyes, he thought they were monkey tricks. The Zhao family was originally one of the top households in the village, but now it is 1,000 times stronger than before. Now that they finally have the opportunity, everyone with the connections they can get is here. As soon as Li Amin, the current village party secretary, got the news, he came over with 2 young and strong men. He enthusiastically shook Mr. Zhao's hand and waved it, indicating that the table and chairs he wanted to borrow for the full moon ceremony were wrapped in his body. No need, these things have been arranged in advance. Mr. Zhao laughed and rejected the other party. It was a joke. How could they improvise on such a thing? Where did you borrow it from? Afraid that the old man was being polite, Li Amin asked the old man thoroughly. Yushin has already said hello in advance. I don't know who I borrowed it from. After a pause, Mr. Zhao added, it should be delivered early the day after tomorrow. Secretary Li, don't forget to come over then. Just have a glass of full moon wine. How could you have forgotten that? Uncle, after all, you have watched me grow up, so why are you having an affair with me? Besides, I can't just open my mouth and say, I will come over to help the day after tomorrow. I have a big table at home. I'll bring it over with you. Even if the borrowed one is enough, it won't be short of my one. Uncle, I'm not doing this just to flatter you. Brother Yushin did a good job in the past, but now it's my turn and everything goes smoothly. I'm grateful to Brother Yushin. He is a principled person. I wanted to treat him to a meal to thank him, but he said nothing. I just took this opportunity to have a glass of wine with Brother Yushin. Okay, then you can bring the table over. Mr. Zhao said and laughed, no, Yushin is back. Just ask him if there is anything else he wants you to help with. If so, you can come on together. Li Amin immediately turned around with a smile on his face, Secretary, are you back? Just now he was calling Brother Yushin, but now he changed his name to Secretary. Amin, you don't want to shout like that, I'm just the Deputy Secretary. Zhao Yushin smiled and greeted him, then looked anxiously at his mother who was holding her eldest grandson, Mom, show me, let me hug you. As he spoke, his hand was already stretched out. Hey, looking at how anxious you are, it seems like I won't let you hug me later. Old Mrs. Zhao complained angrily. Hand the child to Zhao Yushin. Carefully taking the child over and holding it in his arms, Zhao Yushin smiled so hard that wrinkles appeared on his face. The boys in the village who were as old as sons had already given birth to babies. He didn't say it, but he was greedy in his heart. At this moment, he finally became a grandfather. Thinking of this, Zhao Yushin quickly looked at Luo Xiaoxian who was sitting on the kong. Xiaoxian, you have worked so hard. Please lie down and take a rest. Dad, I'm not tired. Luo Xiaoxian smiled, waved her hand, and joked, you have seen me. I greeted you when you came in, but you have been ignoring me. Hey, hey. Zhao Yushan smiled sheepishly. As soon as he came in, his mind was a little dizzy, and his eyes were not working well. Brother Yushan. Li Amin took a step back and said, Uncle, aunt and sister-in-law have just come back and are very tired. You and your family have to have a good reunion. I won't be in the way here. Is there anything I can do? Yes, Brother Yushan, tell me, I will go and make arrangements now. There's nothing left to do. I've borrowed everything that needs to be borrowed and can deliver it the day after tomorrow. I've also found the people who will take care of the dishes. They are Lu Ershuan and Li Qiomei from our village. Then you have to find something for me to do, right? Li Amin wrinkled his face. You also know what I am thinking, and I have always wanted to find an opportunity to repay you. If you don't let me do anything, I will feel terrible. It's really not a good feeling. You. Zhao Yushan smiled helplessly. Can you come here early in the morning and help choose the dishes and serve the plates? Okay, of course. Li Amin smiled and rubbed his hands. As long as Brother Yushan doesn't treat me as an outsider, I'll be happy. Then I won't cause trouble here. He turned around and walked out, waving to the people who were gathered outside and peering in. Go back quickly, my uncles, aunts and sisters-in-law are still tired, let them have a good rest. Uncle, aunt, sister-in-law, I'm from the Yuking family. I'll come see you some other time. Master, grandma, aunt, I am from the Sibeo family. I will come to see you some other time. Brother and sister-in-law, I am Junhong. I will come over the day after tomorrow. The people in the yard who originally wanted to squeeze in to say hello all murmured and left. After a while, the noisy house finally became quiet. Chu Xia, Zhao Yulan, and Lin Baohe, who had no place to stay and had no choice but to hide in the west room, breathed a long sigh of relief and came to the east room with Nan Nan and Bei Bei in their arms. Zhang Qiujun waited until 5 o'clock and finally welcomed County Magistrate Lu. As before, Magistrate Lu came on a bicycle, and following him was his assistant Peng Changjiang. County Magistrate, thank you for your hard work. Zhang Qiujun hurried out to say hello. Looking at County Magistrate Lu, who was dusty and gray-haired, he couldn't tell what he felt. The head of Lu County liked to go to the grassroots level after being transferred, and most of the time he rode a bicycle. He said that this way he could walk around, get close to farmers, and save resources, killing two birds with one stone. Many leaders couldn't stand his behavior. Can't they just drive around and take a look? This is obviously a waste of time. Moreover, he not only wastes his own time, but also wastes other people's time, because wherever he goes, others have to wait to receive him. Just like now, Zhang Qiujun had 100 complaints against him in his heart, but he couldn't show it on his face. If it's not hard, what's the point of it? County Magistrate Lu held Zhang Qiujun's hand and smiled lightly, looked behind him and asked, where is Comrade Yushan? After hesitating, Zhang Qiujun answered truthfully, County Magistrate, Comrade Yushan's son went to the front line. After his daughter-in-law became pregnant, Comrade Yushan stayed alone in his hometown. Now that the child is 1 month old, the whole family has rushed back, so I forced Comrade Yushan to go home first. Anyway, I basically know everything he knows. If you have any orders from the county magistrate, I will do it. Haha. After laughing a few times, County Magistrate Lu waved his hand. Seeing how comprehensive your explanation was, I'm not unreasonable. I just didn't see him and asked casually. Let's go in. I have a few issues to discuss with you. Along the way, I've discovered a lot of problems. How's it going? Did County Magistrate Lu give you any trouble? It was already past 8 o'clock in the evening when Zhang Qiujun arrived at Xiaolin village. Zhao Yushan hurriedly greeted him and asked with a worried look on his face. It's not difficult for me, but I'm sure I'm unhappy. After talking to me, I went to Dalin village again. Zhang Qiujun sighed and smiled bitterly. This county magistrate is really capable. Zhao Yushan has told everyone about the county magistrate's habits before, so Chu Xia couldn't help but mutter, this kind of person obviously likes face-saving projects, but he has to pretend to be cool. But he obviously had a car that could cover 20 villages a day, but he insisted on riding a bicycle to cover 10 villages a day and made others wait for him until midnight. He felt very good about himself, but he didn't know how many people would be exhausted because of him. Will it embarrass my father if he goes to Dalan village so late? Luo Xiaoxian immediately became anxious when she heard that the county magistrate had gone to her father's territory. It's not that difficult, but we can't avoid talking to your father for a while. As he spoke, Zhang Qiujun sighed. Actually, the hardest part is for Peng Changjiang, who follows him. He himself runs from morning to night every day without even a moment to rest, so Peng Changjiang has to stay with him, which is not easy. Chu Xia looked at her second uncle in disbelief. Will he rush back to the county in the evening? That's for sure. He still has to attend the regular meeting every morning. Zhang Qiujun shook his head helplessly. Anyway, this county magistrate really can't be judged. You say he's not good? He can really endure hardships, and he really considers the people. If you say he is good, he will be picky wherever he goes. If he can do it, he must ask others to do the same. Hey. R1152. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 1107. P.S. I want to hear more of your voices and receive more of your suggestions. Now search the WeChat public account Dread and follow it to give more support to Marriage First, Love. 1 update. If it is like what the second uncle said, this county magistrate Lu is pretty good. In future generations, no one will do this even if it is to save face. Riding a bicycle to visit villages early every morning and then rushing back in the middle of the night without a day to rest. How many people can bear this kind of hardship? However, it is difficult for people to really like a person with this kind of personality. After all, he is always doing some repetitive work that does not make much sense, and he wants others to be like him. Did he say anything unpleasant? After hesitating, Zhao Yuqi looked at her husband with some worry. There are many people who can't stand the team you and your eldest brother work with. If County Magistrate Lu doesn't like you anymore, you won't be able to work anymore. It's difficult. We can't just ask the Zhou family to help us when something goes wrong. How can such a big family always stand up for trivial matters like ours? Even if they are willing, we still have to worry about Chu Xia's face. Why is this mother-in-law's family unable to help and always dragging her feet? I didn't say anything unpleasant, it's just that he doesn't look good anyway. However, County Magistrate Lu has a habit of not saying anything at the time when something unpleasant happens to him, but he will definitely use it as a negative example at the next point. Talking about talking, I want to know how many opinions he has. Just ask Gang Shun tomorrow. After a pause, Zhang Qiujun sighed. Since we are all members of the same family, I won't deny it. Nominally, County Magistrate Lu went to Dalan village to find Gang Shun. In fact, it was mainly to visit Mr. Zhang. Madam, so this County Magistrate Lu is definitely not as straightforward as he appears. Mr. Zhang and Mrs. Zhang are the grandparents who rented Shuxia's house. Their son is the current county party committee secretary. To put it this way, County Magistrate Lu is a wonderful person. He usually doesn't get close to Secretary Zhang in the county, but he goes to the village to get close to Secretary Zhang's parents. I don't want to think about these things anymore. Zhao Yushan waved his hand. Originally, I really wanted to fight for something more, not for anything else but for the sake of my family. But now, my son and daughter are all promising. No, I don't care anymore. If County Magistrate Lu really dislikes me because of what happened today, then the worst I can do is go home and farm. Don't worry, Kuajun, I will definitely not implicate you. You are young and energetic, and you cannot offend anyone because of me. After Long Long's full moon party is over, I will go to the county to talk to County Magistrate Lu about this matter. Brother, there is no need to jump to conclusions in such a hurry. Although County Magistrate Lu is a bit difficult to deal with, I haven't heard of anyone wearing small shoes. If he doesn't talk to you, just pretend to be confused. It is most suitable for us two brothers to work as a team. If the eldest brother quits and someone else joins me, some things will have to be delayed. The older I get, the more I want to do something practical for the folks. Otherwise, when we all retreat, we will be unable to intervene even if we want to intervene. When Zhang Qiujun said this, Zhao Yushan hesitated again. Mr. Zhao shook his head helplessly. You can never catch up with your brother-in-law in this regard. I told you when I was the party secretary in the village that you have good intentions and do practical things for the people of the village, but there's just one thing, I don't want to persevere when I encounter difficulties. Think about it, if I hadn't pulled you, would you have gone home and farmed a long time ago? If you have the opportunity and the ability, you have to persevere. What does it mean to suffer a little grievance? Are you not aggrieved by farming at home? If you change to an unreliable branch secretary, you will only be angry all day long. I will see what you will do then. Moreover, this small official has the difficulties of the small official, and the high official also has the difficulties of the high official. Let's just talk about our Xiaomi's father. How big of an official is he? Doesn't he have to suppress his temper in some things? Nothing in this world can completely go your way. Everyone has their own little plan in mind. How could it be possible for you to go smoothly? Dad, if you put it this way, I really am nothing. Sighing, Zhao Yushan said slowly, actually, I don't shrink back when I encounter difficulties. When I was a party secretary, the few times I didn't want to do it were because the people above me interfered so much that I couldn't be a good person at all. If I don't follow them, they will send others to the village to trouble me. If I follow them, the villagers will hate me. It doesn't matter to me, but I have to worry about the safety of my family. Fortunately, those days have finally passed. Now, I really feel that the situation is getting better and better. Even if I don't become the deputy secretary, it won't affect anything. Working as a team with the National Army can indeed save many things from detours, but there are more people gossiping, and some people even wrote letters of complaint. It would be really boring if the Zhou family was implicated because of this. We are thinking about the whole town, but who is thinking about us? Nowadays, our family's reputation is unparalleled in the whole town, and there are many people suffering from pink eye. Dad, I admit that I am not as good as my brother-in-law in this regard, but it is really not because of myself. You can't always accuse me so wrongly. Okay, I have wronged you. Look at how wronged you are. Sighing, Mr. Zhao said, you can decide this matter yourself, I won't go into details. I'll think about it some more. Zhao Yushan also had a tangled look on his face. From the bottom of his heart, of course he hoped to work for a few more years. After all, he was only in his early 50s. If he had the opportunity, he still hoped to do more for the villagers. To be honest, when I say angry words, I think no one cares about him. However, if what I do is to think about rewards, is there anything I can do? Moreover, as a man, who doesn't want to make achievements in his career? If you can't be a high official, it's honorable to be a small official and do more for the people. When your grandchildren grow up in the future, they won't think that he is incompetent as a grandfather. Uncle, you and your second uncle were both promoted through normal channels. It just so happens that you two are on the same team. There is nothing we can do about it. We can't let one of you give up just because of this, right? As for the Joe family, you and your second uncle don't have to worry. They have never done or said anything about this matter. If we really talk about their role, it is because of their existence. You and your second uncle have nothing to worry about. No one dared to interfere with my uncle's promotion. Even if someone really blames the Joe family for the promotion of you and your second uncle, it doesn't matter. Your and your second uncle's achievements and qualifications are here. No matter who checks, the results will be the same. At that time, the one who complained shot himself in the foot. As for the current county magistrate Lou, he is not just targeting you and your second uncle. He has such a character and treats everyone like this. Why should you? So give in? Josei, who had always been a listener, couldn't help but speak. After all, she was the only one qualified to speak on behalf of the Joe family. If she didn't express her opinion, things might really go in another direction. Okay, listen to Xia, I'll do it first. Waved his hand, Zhao Yushan changed the subject. It's a happy day, let's not talk about these unhappy things. He glanced at the big sleeping soundly lying on the con. Grandson, Zhao Yushan's face was immediately covered with a smile. This little guy is really good at sleeping. Look at that little nose, he and Qi Liang are almost carved out of the same mold. That's right, Zhang Qiujun also stretched his head to look. It's only the full moon, and it looks so beautiful. It seems that the water and soil in the city are better than those in the countryside. Whether it's in the city or in the country, if the living standards have improved, they will support people. Mr. Zhao looked at his son and son-in-law with a serious look on his face. So, you two should work together and work hard to improve the living standards of the villagers. As you improve, no one will appreciate your kindness. Even if someone does something bad, everyone will be the first to stand up and help you. Of course, we do this not to ask everyone to help, but to hope that every family can have steamed buns, vegetables, and fruits like us. Well, what Dad said is true, but... Zhao Yushan frowned in confusion. We are also in a difficult situation now. The policies from above are there, and there are some things we want to do but can't do. Let's just talk about this kind of crops. If you plant some seeds randomly in your yard, they will grow better than in the fields. Why? Isn't it because those in the fields and those who are not at home don't like to use force? When working, everyone looks at them and they are working hard, but no matter how hard they work, only they know that they can fool people but not the crops. Let me tell you, it would be better to distribute the land to each household and see what their enthusiasm will be like. During the last meeting, I just said that, and County Magistrate Lu almost scolded me to death. Hey. Chu Xia was indeed aware of this pattern that Zhao Yushan mentioned later, but she really couldn't say it out now, and she couldn't help but be impressed by her uncle. As far as people of this era are concerned, most of them are extremely conservative, or are frightened by one movement after another. Even if they have ideas in their hearts, they dare not speak out. People like my uncle are definitely different. If the eldest uncle and the second uncle are really given a chance, they will definitely be good leaders. The second uncle is more tactful than the eldest uncle, and the eldest uncle is bolder than the second uncle. It is perfect for these two people to work together. It seemed that during the few days she stayed in her hometown, she still had to persuade her uncle, but she couldn't give up easily, but there was no need to dwell on this topic now. Sometimes one thing was said too many times. But it is not easy to get into the heart. Auntie didn't notify me, Chu Xia asked. Zhao Yushan slapped his forehead fiercely. How could I forget this? Xia, thank you for reminding me, otherwise your aunt would have to think about it too much. Looking at the time, he sighed. Today it's too late, I'll go tell her tomorrow morning. My novel Marriage First, Deep Love will have more fresh content on the official WeChat platform, and there will also be a 100 RMB lucky draw gift for everyone. Now just open WeChat, click the plus sign in the upper right corner and add friend, Search the official account Dread and follow it. Hurry up, R1152. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 1108. P.S. I want to hear more of your voices and receive more of your suggestions. Now search the WeChat public account Dread and follow it to give more support to marriage first, love. Second update. Auntie, think too much, Chu Xia looked at Zhao Yushan with a puzzled look. In her impression, Auntie had the best personality and treated their family well, so why would she think too much about it? Hey. Zhao Yushan sighed helplessly. It wasn't because of your sister Mai Feng that after the strong family broke off the engagement, she found a teacher by herself, but they broke up again while talking. Last year, I reviewed with you, Sister Kiwi, to take the college entrance examination. As a result, you, Sister Kiwi, passed the exam but she didn't. You also know that your sister, Mai Feng, is a high-spirited person. She thought that Sister Kiwi, a farmer, could pass the exam. It was too embarrassing for a teacher to fail the exam, so he gave up his job as a teacher and went to the county to sign up for a study class, focusing on studying for the college entrance examination. Your uncle is very honest, but he also has old-fashioned ideas. He feels that a girl is not worth the trouble. But if he doesn't talk about you, Sister Mai Feng, he will always get angry at your aunt. There was no other way, so your aunt came to beg me and asked if the town middle school could resume your sister Mai Feng's teacher position. But this kind of thing is not a child's play. How can she do whatever she wants? I told your aunt that if Mai Feng still wants to be a teacher, she should wait until there is a shortage of private teachers before taking the exam. Your aunt agreed, but your uncle is not satisfied. Of course, he didn't say it in front of me, he said it in front of the people in his village, saying that the Zhao family had mixed up, and his family was the only one left out. To put it bluntly, he looked down on him and thought he was incompetent. As a result, this word reached your aunt's ears again. How could your aunt let him say that and went back to fight with him? Her nose was even broken by him. The clerk of their village went to the town for a meeting and specifically told me about this. How could I let your uncle bully your aunt? After work, I went to your aunt's house. Your uncle was still as enthusiastic as before, but I couldn't pretend, so I asked him truthfully why he hit your aunt. His face suddenly changed, he glared at your aunt, slammed the door and left. Afraid that I would be angry, your aunt kept trying to persuade me, and she was even angry on your uncle's behalf. I was also angry because I thought your aunt had lived a useless life. Men didn't take her seriously, and daughters didn't take her seriously either. Take her seriously. If this continues, if your son marries his daughter-in-law in the future, he will definitely not take her seriously. In fact, I just said what I said out of anger, and I regretted it after I said it. I was too embarrassed to apologize at the time because of the shame, so I sat for a while and left. From that day on, your aunt never came to the house again. I was too busy to see her, so I called her and asked her to come to the house when she was free. But she said she was busy at home and couldn't leave. Asked me what was going on. For me, I was already on the verge of apologizing, but when I heard your aunt's lukewarm attitude, I became angry again, so I just said it was okay and hung up the phone. When I called her back, the phone number in their village was broken, and I haven't contacted her again until now. Alas. Zhao Yushan sighed, so, I have to go in person for this matter, otherwise the anger in your aunt's heart cannot be tolerated. Brother, you do too. What eldest sister is most afraid of is that Jin Song will marry a wife in the future and have trouble getting along with her. If you insist on exposing her shortcomings, it would be strange if she doesn't get angry with you. And speaking of it now, the eldest sister of the three families is poor, and she has such a temper. The last time I came back to give her money, she refused to accept anything, and said that if I kept nagging, she would fall out with me. I had no choice but to take the money back. I wanted to give it to her as a loan, but she insisted that the family was not short of money or anything. She was such a stubborn person. She feels that she is the eldest daughter in the family. What we should do is to help our brothers and sisters more. If you let her get a little bit of light, she will feel uncomfortable. Think about how poor the eldest sister was back then, but she always gave me the food she picked out of her mouth. Speaking of which, I really don't have the backbone of my eldest sister. Chusia scratched her head in embarrassment. It's not that my mother has no spine, it's that I have no spine. Otherwise, my mother wouldn't always be a drag on my mother's family. Okay, you two, please stop digging around for old sesame seeds and rotten millet. Our family has never felt that you are a burden. As a family, don't we just have to help each other? Yueying's temperament is a little too stubborn. How can the family come up with so many polite words? After a pause, Mrs. Zhao looked at her eldest son and said, "Don't go there tomorrow morning. Your eldest sister is so stubborn. Your little sister will treat her. Magnolia, go find your eldest sister tomorrow morning and try to understand her, so that when you come to the full moon banquet, she will be even more confused by the comparison between the two parties." Zhao Yulan responded with a smile, "Don't worry, mother, I will definitely persuade the eldest sister. I and the eldest sister can talk best when we are young." The whole family chatted for a while and then went to rest. The Zhao family house could not accommodate so many people, so Zhang Qiujun and his family returned to the town. Uwa had to get up at night to nurse, so Li Aiwan took Luo Xiaoxian and her mother to live in the east room, and Zhao Qiwi followed. Zhao Yulan and Mrs. Zhao stayed with Chu Xia, mother and son in the east room, and Mr. Zhao took his elder brother. The son and son-in-law moved to the west house. Wang Zhongliang and Uncle Li, who drove a large family here, were arranged to stay at the home of their second uncle Zhao Yishui, and the group was finally able to make arrangements. After a speechless night, Zhao Yulan was driven by Wang Zhongliang to the village where her aunt Zhao Yuying lived early the next morning. Chu Xia also wanted to follow, but she was worried, so she had no choice but to tell her mother, if she can persuade her well, she can do it, if she can't, she can. Don't be angry either. Don't worry, your aunt's temper isn't that bad. She just thinks that her family is the worst, and she's afraid of hurting us. As long as I untie this button for her, there will be no problem. Zhao Yulan stretched her head out of the car and assured her daughter with a smile. Thinking about it, Chu Xia waved a firm hand to his mother with confidence, turned around and returned to the yard. Half an hour later, the car returned to the outside of the hospital. Aunt Zhao Yuying, Uncle Wang Aguo, Cousin Wang Maifeng, and Cousin Wang Jinsong got out of the car with Zhao Yulan. Chu Xia and Zhao Qiwi were helping Nan Nan and Bai Bei learn to walk in the yard. When they saw a group of people coming in, they looked at each other with surprise in their eyes. This is the first time in these years that my uncle comes to visit me. This man has a traditional and sensitive mind. He felt that he married Zhao Yuying, but made her live a worse life than her brothers and sisters. He was too embarrassed to come, so he did not come. Later, he saw that his wife's brothers and sisters were getting better and better, and the children were becoming more and more promising. He felt even more shameless to come to Zhao's house. Today, is the sun rising from the west? After the two sides greeted each other, Zhao Yuying squatted in front of the twins and couldn't move her legs. The last time they saw her, she was still a little moon baby, and now she can walk. Moreover, the two little guys are so beautiful and beautiful. At this age in her life, this is the first time she has seen such a beautiful child. Wang Jinsong looked at the two little brothers with great curiosity. He followed Zhao Yuying and looked at them, reaching out to hug them, but he was afraid that they would be damaged. Only Wang Maifeng stood aside, her expression indifferent, showing no emotion or anger. Chu Xia and she had reconciled before, but after leaving, there was no contact for nearly a year. When they met again, the original familiarity completely disappeared. When everyone was busy teasing their children, Chu Xia asked Zhao Yulan in a low voice, "Mom, how did you persuade your uncle to come with you? Also, how did you persuade your aunt to come together in such a short time? Your aunt is not angry at all. We are overthinking it. She is really busy during this period." Sighing, Zhao Yulan said helplessly, "It's about your sister Mai Feng. I'll talk to you later, you say." In response, Chu Xia went to the room where Luo Xiaoxian was staying without asking any more questions. Just after confinement, the child cannot see the wind. Luo Xiaoxian can go out and play, but Long Long cannot. Therefore, Luo Xiaoxian can only make do with the child and stay in the house most of the time. As a result, Chu Xia entered the east room, and Wang Maifeng followed. She was much more enthusiastic about Luo Xiaoxian than Chu Xia. She looked at the baby on the Kong and asked questions. Luo Xiaoxian didn't like her, so naturally she didn't want to talk to her, but when people came up to praise the baby, she couldn't slap her in the face, so she had to force herself to deal with her. After talking for a while, Wang Maifeng turned to look at Chu Xia. "Is Mrs. Guan doing a good job?" Of course, too lazy to talk nonsense with her, Chu Xia dismissed her with just 2 words. "Are you sure when Mr. Guan will be back? Just say what you want to say, don't be weird." Chu Xia frowned and looked at her. "Wang Maifeng, I remember we talked about it before, what are you doing?" "What are you doing?" Wang Maifeng sneered, "Thanks to you, I'm still single now. What do you think I'm doing? I'm here to settle a score with you. Can't you see? Aren't you too funny?" Chu Xia looked at her speechlessly. "What does it have to do with me whether you can get married or not? Is your settlement too inexplicable? How could it have nothing to do with you?" Wang Maifeng frowned and glared at her. "If it weren't for that Lin Chuxia, I would be Lu Ping's fiancé now. If you didn't help that Lin Chuxia, would she have this chance?" Chu Xia looked at her funny. "I understand, you went to the county to review, and you met a boy you liked, but it turned out that he liked the girl with the same name as me. Then, you had nowhere to vent your anger. Just sprinkle it on me. Why are you so nosy? If you didn't help her, the result would definitely not be like this." Wang Maifeng sighed heavily. "I also know that I can't blame you, but if I don't blame you, who can I blame? Chu Xia. Being so unreasonable is a very difficult state to reach." My novel Marriage First, Love will have more fresh content on the official WeChat platform, and there will also be a 100 RMB lucky draw gift for everyone. Open WeChat now, click the plus sign on the upper right, add friend, search the official account Dread and follow it. Hurry up, R1152. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 1109. P.S. I want to hear more of your voices and receive more of your suggestions. Now search the WeChat public account Dread and follow it to give more support to Marriage First, Love. 1 update. If you don't change your character, you will eventually offend everyone. Luo Xiaoxian looked at Wang Maifeng with a depressed expression. How can you just blame others when something goes wrong without reflecting on yourself at all? Luo Xiaoxian was Wang Maifeng's cousin, her identity was there, and what she said was reasonable. Although Wang Maifeng was unhappy, she didn't dare to refute. She is not a 3-year-old child, and it is impossible for her to be really careless about things. Her rudeness to Chu Xia has been a habit formed since she was a child. Even if Chu Xia is married now, she still can't be submissive. Although she has met Luo Xiaoxian before, she is not familiar with her, so it is easier to respect her. The most important thing is that she is a little afraid of Zhao Qiliang, and she has already offended Chu Xia, but she does not want to offend Zhao Qiliang again. After that, she really had no support at all. Chu Xia had already adapted to Wang Meifeng's back and forth and was too lazy to talk to her. Seeing that Long Long was sleeping soundly, Luo Xiaoxian could take care of him even if she stayed here, so she stood up and said, "Xiaoxian, let me go out and see what's going on first. If you need help, call me when Long Long wakes up." "Okay, you go." Although she longed for Chu Xia to stay with her, but knowing that she didn't want to see Wang Meifeng, Luo Xiaoxian happily agreed. Moreover, she also wanted to have a good talk with Wang Meifeng while Chu Xia was away. Regardless of whether she could listen or not, she had to make good use of her status as sister-in-law. "Meifeng, can you tell me how you feel about Chu Xia?" Luo Xiaoxian asked directly after Chu Xia left the house. "Sister-in-law, you should have thought of it even if I didn't tell you, right?" Wang Meifeng sighed. Sister-in-law and Chu Xia are good friends who grew up together. Naturally, they always turn to her for everything. Moreover, seeing how I treat her like this, it's definitely something that can't be seen. However, there are some things that cannot be changed in a short while. You have to admit that when Chu Xia was a child, she was really annoying and hopeless. How does it feel when a person who is so much worse than you suddenly stands high above your head? I know that there is no reason for me to be jealous, but it is really impossible for me not to be jealous. Of course, it is impossible for you to feel this way. You are married to your eldest brother. Although your conditions are not comparable to those of the Zhou family, they are many times better than those of ordinary families. And with my eldest brother's achievements, you are destined to be a stable official wife in the future. If I have such an opportunity, I will not blame Chu Xia. Not only will I not blame her, I will also hold her high. My sister-in-law must admit that what she is today is all thanks to me, her cousin. But after all, I am her cousin. Why can she help others but not me? When her family was in trouble, our family would go hungry and save food from between our teeth to send it to her family. We didn't think about anything else, but just thought about this. She should give me a hand, right? I admit, I am a little vain, otherwise, I wouldn't have failed the exam. My eldest sister used to work at a housekeeping job, but she was not as good as me and she still passed the exam. Why? Of course, when I say this, I don't mean to suspect that my eldest sister plagiarized or took advantage of the back door. What I mean is that she went into battle lightly, without any psychological burden, and she naturally performed better than me. If Chu Xia also gives me reassurance, my grades will definitely not be inferior to those of my eldest sister. Sister-in-law, if you were me, you would definitely have opinions. Really, don't believe it? Only when you experience it yourself can you truly experience it. After a moment of silence, Luo Xiaoxian sighed. I remember the last time I saw you, you had reconciled with Chu Xia. He also said that he would get along well with her in the future, and even vowed to go to college sooner or later to let others see what you are capable of. But now, your attitude has suddenly changed 180 degrees. Is it because of that man named Lu Peng? Could it be that you couldn't live without him? My emotions are indeed related to him, but the most important thing is that I can't see the future, and I feel very depressed. After a pause and a long sigh, Wang Meifeng looked at Luo Xiaoxian. Sister-in-law, can you tell me Chuxia, let her talk to Lin Chuxia and stop pestering Lu Peng. As long as she helps me with this matter, no matter what kind of life I live in the future, I will never blame her again. Why don't you tell her yourself? Luo Xiaoxian looked at her lightly. Don't you think there is a big problem with your character? You blame all your misfortunes on Chu Xia. I'm confused. They are not your parents, nor your elders, so why should they give in to you and think about you everywhere? I didn't let her give in to me or think about me at all times. I just hope that she can treat me like she treats other relatives. To be honest, I am too tired of living now. The reason why I went all the way to the county to review was because there was too much gossip in my hometown. In the past, Everyone knew about the affairs between me and the Jiang family, and they would point fingers wherever I went. Originally, when nothing happened to Zhao Qian, no one told me in front of my face. Later, after the news about her being cheated by Lu Zhenjiang spread, people stopped tabooing me. To put it bluntly, those people are bullies. If my aunt's family were nicer to me, would they dare to talk nonsense like that in front of me? If there hadn't been so many things like this, where would I have gotten this resentment from? She thinks I'm not good to her, but what about her treatment to me? She watched me being bullied without even raising a finger. Is she really better than me? Hee hee. Okay, you've hit a dead end again. Luo Xiaoxian looked at her helplessly. I still say the same thing, you always ask others to treat you well, but you don't give anything, and not only don't you give, you want to stab someone with a knife for nothing, but they are not stupid, so why should they be nice to you? Speaking of your family helping Chu Xia in the past, in fact, it was your mother who helped Chu Xia's family. You and your father stopped her, right? You were not the one who showed mercy at that time, so why do you want to pick the fruit now? Back then, you and your father were trying to help Chu Xia's family because of your mother, but you and your father did a lot to shame your mother, and even Chu Xia's family. It would be nice if they didn't remember your grudges. If you ask them to return the favor, I don't want to. Really convinced. My sister-in-law is always facing them, and I have nothing to say. Sighing, Wang Meifeng smiled bitterly. I came all the way to tell my sister-in-law all this, and I was so embarrassed. Forget it, I won't make it difficult for my sister-in-law. After all, my sister-in-law and Chu Xia grew up together and are best friends. There is nothing wrong with my sister-in-law doing this. But speaking of it this way, Chu Xia's luck is really unmatched by ordinary people. Needless to say, her aunt and uncle love her very much. You and your family have always been very good to her. If you find an in-law, you will pamper her in every way. What a person! Those who are really blessed are extremely blessed, and those who are not blessed. She shook her head and said no more. When a person is cornered, he cannot listen to the truth. Wang Meifeng is in this situation now. If she had thought about it originally, then now, it is because of Lu Ping that she has fallen back. To put it bluntly, I still didn't really understand it at the beginning, otherwise, it wouldn't be like this now. Knowing that she couldn't be persuaded, Luo Xiaoxian stopped talking about this topic. She was still in confinement and was too lazy to get angry with such people. Moreover, she had already done her due diligence, and there was nothing she could do if the other party didn't appreciate it. Anyway, to Chu Xia, it didn't matter whether she had this cousin or not. She just thought she was nosy. Seeing Luo Xiaoxian pulling up the quilt and lying down, Wang Meifeng knew that she was being kicked out. Sister-in-law, you can go to sleep. I'm going out to help with the work. Sighing secretly, Wang Meifeng walked out. When she reached the door, she couldn't help but look back and stare at Luo Xiaoxian. She hoped that the other party would stop her. She just mentioned that Chu Xia was so excited that she forgot what she wanted to say. If possible, she still hoped that her sister-in-law could say a few nice words for her in front of her eldest brother. Thinking of this, she wanted to hit herself on the head. She knew clearly that her sister-in-law was close to Chu Xia, so why did she say that in front of her? Is it possible that the other party can turn against her? There were too many people eating dumplings for lunch, and the elders all stepped in to do the work. Chu Xia, the least skilled person, was responsible for looking after the children. She wanted to put the two little ones in the car, but the two brothers, who had just learned to walk, were not familiar with walking. Things are happening now, how can I be willing to stay in the car? Some tables and stools had been brought to the yard, but it was really inconvenient. Chu Xia had no choice but to take the two little ones to the outside of the yard for activities. Wang Jinsong, who was unable to help, also followed. We have reached an agreement not to spoil the children. Chuxia will not spoil the two little ones who love the activity of walking. He puts them at the door and lets them go. After all, their legs and feet are not yet stable, so falling down is inevitable. As usual, Chuxia didn't step forward to help him, but stood far away and directed the two brothers to get up on their own. Sister, can I help them? After watching for a while, Wang Jinsong finally couldn't help it anymore. They don't need support. They will learn slowly if they become dependent. This is really good for them. Chuxia looked at him with a smile. My brows are almost twisted into knots. Is this distressing? Yes, they are so young, how could I be willing to let them fall like that? Besides, aren't all the kids in the city spoiled? Why don't you think they'll get sick all over themselves? You won't get sick, don't worry. Chuxia sighed with a smile. It would be great if your sister could get along with me like you do. Okay, she admitted that she was lying. Not for anything else, but to make her aunt's life easier. She also hopes that she can do her part, otherwise, her grandma and grandpa may not follow them to the capital. As the old man is getting older, it is safer to stay in the city. She doesn't want the dangerous thing last time to happen again. My novel Marriage First, Love will have more fresh content on the official WeChat platform, and there will also be a 100 lucky draw gift for everyone. Open WeChat now, click on the plus sign on the upper right, add friend, search follow the public account Dread and hurry up, R1152. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 1110. P.S. I want to hear more of your voices and receive more of your suggestions. Now search the WeChat public account Dread and follow it to give more support to Marriage First, Love. Second update arrived. Sister Chuxia, do you hate my sister very much? Wang Jinsong carefully looked at Chuxia's face and sighed, if my sister does that to me, I will definitely hate her very much. Chuxia shook her head, I can't say I hate it, but I can't say I like it either. Jinsong, what's the current relationship between aunt and uncle? Don't hide it from me, just tell the truth, okay? My mother and my father are still like that. Wang Jinsong couldn't help but sigh again. When I came back from school, they pretended to be fine, but one look at their expressions and you knew they must have had a fight during the day. Sister Chuxia, I know why you asked me about this. Don't listen to my sister. She wanted you to help her, so she deliberately brought the quarrel between my parents to you. Don't pay attention to her. After hesitating, Chuxia still asked in a low voice, do you know about your sister and that Lu Ping? Didn't my sister go to the county to review? A female classmate in the cram school had a good relationship with my sister, so she took her back home once. Lu Ping is the cousin of the female classmate, and he happened to be visiting relatives at his aunt's house. As a result, the conversation with my sister was very interesting. You also know my sister's character. She will never wait if she takes a fancy to her, so she took the initiative to leave her address and asked Lu Ping to go visit her when he had nothing to do. That Lu Ping actually went there on the weekend, and they went to the park together and had dinner together. My sister felt that Lu Ping had fallen in love with her, and she even went home to tell her parents about it. After a while, Lu Ping stopped looking for her, and she found the unit where Lu Ping worked. There was no other way, so Lu Ping told her the truth, saying that his family had introduced him to a girlfriend, and he could only follow their family's arrangements. Later, my sister found out that Lu Ping's new girlfriend was Lin Chuxia, who has the same name as you, Sister Chuxia, and then she went to find him and asked him to let her go. It seemed that Lin Chuxia didn't listen to her, so she came home and told her mother about the matter and asked her to write a letter to Lin Chuxia. When her mother didn't agree, She quarreled with her. Because of this, my father and mother moved their hands, and my sister watched from the side without even pulling me. When I came home from school, my mother's face was bruised by my father. Sister Chuxia, do you think my sister is too cruel? My mother is also her own mother. How could she not feel any pain at all when she saw my mother being beaten like that by my father? Sister Chuxia, you must not help him. People like him are absolute white-eyed wolves. If you help her, it will not be good, and it will make her more and more greedy. As for my mother and my father, it is simply not something that we, the younger generation, can get involved in. I have tried to persuade them many times, and even threatened that I will only support my mother and not my father in the future, but it is useless. Hey. Chu Xia sighed heavily and looked at Wang Jinsong seriously. What are your plans next year? You will go to high school next year. Should you study in the county or in the town? Then it depends on my grades. If I can get into the high school in the county, of course I will go to the county to study. I will have a better chance of getting into college in the future. When I get a job, I will take my mother out and never let her go again. Dad bullied her. Sister Chuxia, don't worry, I will definitely not be like my sister. Even if I take my mother out, I will not ignore my father. I will send him money every month. Anyway, our family's affairs, son. I can hold on, sister, you have to believe me. It's really weird. Chu Xia laughed helplessly. Generally, boys in the family are used to being bad, but your family is good. You are so sensible, but your sister is so messy, eh? Actually speaking, when we were young, my parents used to spoil me more. Because of this, my sister's character became worse and worse. He scratched his head in confusion. Wang Jinsong looked melancholy. It's my fault that I was ignorant when I was a child. I would compete with her for everything. If I had given in to her, maybe her character would not be like this. Okay, you are so much younger than her. If you have that consciousness, you will really become a spirit. Chu Xia reached out and patted his shoulder. We sisters didn't get along much before. I talked to you today, I feel more at ease. If I need you in the future, I will ask you. As long as I can do it, I will definitely help you. Don't worry, Sister Chuxia. If I need your help, I won't be polite. But don't worry, I will definitely not make things difficult for Sister Chuxia. Chu Xia smiled and nodded. I know, otherwise I wouldn't dare to take this guarantee. While the two were talking, Nan Nan Bei kept wrestling and getting up again. Wang Jinsong said with emotion, Sister Chu Xia, Nan Nan Bei will definitely be very promising in the future. Children in our rural areas are not so down to earth. He didn't cry even when he fell down. He was so brave. I wasn't as brave as them when I was a kid. Then I'll lend you some good words. Chu Xia looked at him funny. Can you still remember such a big thing? I can't remember, but my mother always mentioned. Sighing, Wang Jinsong looked disappointed. It would be great if grandma was still alive. My sister might not be like this. My mother said that grandma is special. She loves her sister, so after her grandma left, her sister always felt that everyone was close to her, and her personality became worse and worse. If my grandma were still alive, my sister would have been watched by grandma all the time, and she must have a very good character. In fact, my sister is smarter than me, but she always uses her smartness in the wrong place, so she is always a little behind in learning. There are no ifs or ifs in this world. After a pause, Chu Xia said, and if it's like what you said, maybe your sister's personality is more extreme. If you can make her feel that everyone treats her worse than your grandma, it means that your grandma is a very doting person. In fact, you really shouldn't dote on your children too much when they are young. Children do not yet have the ability to distinguish right from wrong. If you follow them, no matter whether it is right or wrong, they will regard it as right. After a long time, they will really become willful and unreasonable. That's right. Wang Jinsong scratched his head again in confusion. According to Sister Chuxia, it's really a matter of success or failure. What are you two talking about? Wang Meifeng came out and saw the two standing there chatting animatedly, but she couldn't understand, so she asked coldly. Chu Xia looked back at her and smiled, want to know? Wang Meifeng frowned and snorted, of course, what if you and my brother say bad things about me? My brother is young and does not have the ability to distinguish between wrong and wrong. You are not allowed to take advantage of him. I won't tell you. Chu Xia's infuriating answer almost made Wang Meifeng breathless. She came out of Luo Xiaoxing's room and went to help chop the stuffing. After finally finishing her work, she came out to breathe. Only to find that this lucky young lady was chatting leisurely with her brother. Can she not be angry? She was 100% sure that the two of them were talking about her. Otherwise, how could we talk so speculatively? Taking advantage of her younger brother's youth and ignorance to make clichés, this cousin is really hateful. Don't blame her for her inconsistent attitude towards her. How can she have a good attitude towards such a person? Sister Chuxia wants to help you, but I stopped her. Seeing that his sister had misunderstood again, Wang Jinsong explained, we can't bother Sister Chuxia with everything. If we want to live a good life, damn you are the right one. And didn't I say it before, I will never let Sister Chuxia help me even a little bit, and we will wait for 10 years, and then we will see who can make a difference. This is what you said to me personally, and now you have forgotten it? Yes, the two of them still have a 10-year contract. Chu Xia also turned her attention to Wang Meifeng. She had never forgotten this matter. However, after the reconciliation last time, she thought that this extra agreement could be ignored. Unexpectedly, now the old matter would have to be brought up again. I was too stupid to make that agreement. If there is no one to help me, no matter how hard I try, it will be useless. When I stayed in the town, I was really stupid. I thought that as long as I worked hard, everything would be fine. It will be as I wish, but now it seems that it is simply impossible. Lin Chuxia, if you are not afraid, you should help me. Otherwise, even if you live a better life than me and are more promising than me in 10 years, I will not be convinced by you. What does it matter whether you are convinced or not? Chu Xia spread her hands, I'm not living with you. Besides, you originally made the agreement yourself, and you are free to abide by it or not. Wang Meifeng looked at her younger brother and snorted coldly, Jinsong, you saw it, this is the kind cousin in your mouth. I still stick to my opinion. Wang Jinsong looked at his sister seriously, if you can't find your problem, sister, you will never look down on anyone in your life. Tell me, when you grow up, who do you think has it easier? Except for your grandma who passed away early, is there anyone else who can catch your eye? Both my parents and I have a lot of faults in your eyes. But have you ever thought about it, we all have a lot of shortcomings, what about you? One's own shortcomings are called strengths, and other people's strengths are also called shortcomings. Is it appropriate for you to think so? You two, stop arguing. Zhao Yueying stood at the door and looked at Chu Xia with an apologetic look, Xia, don't get along with them. They have been like this since they were little. They are used to it. Auntie, I'm fine. Looking at her aunt, who was obviously 5 or 6 years older than her peers, Chu Xia felt a little sad. It wasn't that she didn't want to help, but that she really couldn't help. Or maybe this is human life. When my aunt married her uncle, she wanted her to be honest. It turned out that my uncle was indeed an honest person. However, he didn't take it out on others when he was angry, and kept it all at home. In the past, she had always thought that her aunt agreed to help her family. It wasn't until my grandma and mother talked about those old things that she realized how much suffering my aunt had suffered in her life. My novel Marriage First, Love will have more new content on the official WeChat platform at the same time. There is also a 100 lucky draw gift for everyone. Open WeChat now, click on the plus sign in the upper right corner, add friend, search the official account Dread and follow it. Hurry up, R1152. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 1111. P.S. I want to hear more of your voices and receive more of your suggestions. Now search the WeChat public account Dread and follow it to give more support to Marriage First, Love. One update, the other update is also coded, I will fix it and upload it later. One of the most powerless things in life is that you want the people you care about to live a better life, but you have no way of doing it. This is how Chu Xia feels about her aunt Zhao Yueying now. The eldest uncle is a standard rural man who is stupid and has no ability, but he blames others for his family's unsatisfactory situation. Just like now, he feels that their family is not as good as others because Chuxia's family does not help them. But the problem is, with the personalities of him and his daughter Wang Maifeng, how can anyone help them? If you help the head, there will really be no tail. If you sincerely do good for them, you can only be like this. Even though she felt sorry for her aunt Zhao Yueying, Chu Xia couldn't help her. If it was just Wang Jinsong and her aunt, they could do anything, but now with her uncle and Wang Maifeng, nothing could do. If you give him one, he wonders why you don't give him two. When you give him two, he thinks of three again. He is never satisfied and always complains. Even as he gets more, he becomes more resentful. Standard Do Minchen Mikiu. Therefore, as Wang Jinsong said, the aunt and uncle have lived like this all their lives and have adapted to this model. There is nothing to worry about. When Wang Jinsong is able to make money, the aunt will really get over it. Of course, this can only be a wish. If the uncle and Wang Maifeng still get along with each other, Wang Jinsong will be tired. People can't choose their origins, nor can they choose their relatives. Whatever happens, they can only accept it calmly. There is no other way. If they remain like this and feel frustrated, there will naturally be a solution. Looking at Wang Jinsong's character, he will definitely not be a soft persimmon who can only be manipulated in the future. Thinking of this, Chu Xia finally felt better. God did not send her to this era to be a savior. She had done her best and had a clear conscience, and that was enough. Auntie, let's go in. Although I figured it out, I still felt a little sad when facing my aunt. Chu Xia handed Nanan into Wang Jinsong's hands, picked up Bai Bei, and invited Zhao Yueying to come into the house with her. Give auntie a hug, okay. Zhao Yueying stared at Bai Bei and couldn't bear to move away. Of course, but I have to discuss it with him. Chu Xia smiled helplessly. He is not as easy to talk to as his brother, and he has many problems. Then he looked at his youngest son, Bai Bei, I want to hug you. Can you? The little guy's big black eyes turned to Zhao Yueying. He looked him over, grinned, and opened his little hands to express his agreement. Chu Xia breathed a sigh of relief and handed him to Zhao Yueying. Aunt, it seems Bai Bei likes you. When the second aunt wanted to hug him, he howled for a long time. Really? Zhao Yueying looked at Chu Xia with surprise on her face. Xia, aren't you trying to make auntie happy? Of course not. This little bastard has a bad habit of not letting strangers hug him. You really made an exception for this little bastard. The first time his aunt wanted to hug him, he didn't let him hug. Hearing what Chu Xia said, Zhao Yueying became even happier. She hugged Bai Bei and didn't know how to kiss her. Strangely enough, Bai Bei, who always disliked strangers getting close to him, actually took the initiative to hold Zhao Yueying's face with his little fat paws and smiled. After that, Zhao Yueying took over the little one. Zhao Yulan was puzzled when she saw that, so she couldn't help but drag Chu Xia outside the yard, and ask Chu Xia in a low voice, what kind of ecstasy did your aunt give Bai Bei? Chu Xia spread her hands, Then I don't know. Anyway, I asked the little bastard for his opinion. He agreed, and I gave him to my aunt to hold, and then he and her kissed like this. Stretching out her head to look at Bei, who was in Zhao Yueying's arms, and Nan Nan, who was following Wang Jinsong, Zhao Yueying smiled with relief. Although the children are young, they are sensible. I know your aunt and Jinsong are sincere, so I am willing to give them face. Probably. Chu Xia sighed, Mom, do you know why my uncle is willing to come? He is a master who never lets go of rabbits. You kid, why are you talking about your uncle like that? Zhao Yulan rolled her eyes at her daughter in a funny way. Your grandma and grandpa are back, and it's such a happy day. How can he not come? When Xiaoxiang and brother Qi Liang got engaged, wouldn't he not come if he was asked to come? Chu Xia curled her lips. To put it bluntly, don't you think brother Qi Liang is promising now? Hey. Zhao Yulan sighed, no matter what the reason is, as long as he can live a good life with your aunt, it's not easy for your aunt to follow him all her life. He behaves honestly and kindly outside, and no matter what happens, others will think it is your aunt's fault. Only those who hang out often know that he is a rotten kind of person. When you were young, I was afraid that you would know that you were not close to your aunt, so I didn't tell you these things. Now that you are your own mother, your mother will no longer hide it from you. When you come back in the future, it's convenient to go see your aunt. If it's not convenient, don't go. Anyway, your father and mother will come back every year to visit relatives, so it will be the same for your parents when they go. You don't have to worry about what your uncle says. Neither mother nor your father care. He can't listen to what he said before. We could tolerate it back then, let alone now. No matter what, your aunt helped us a lot back then, and even though he was dissatisfied, he didn't forcefully stop your aunt. In this way, he is actually okay. Before, I was always wondering how a kind-hearted aunt could give birth to a daughter as selfish as Wang Meifeng. Now I finally understand who Wang Meifeng looks like. But God is fair, and there is Jin Song. By the way, Mom, Jin Song plans to take her to her side when he earns money, but I guess she can't agree. Mom should vaccinate her in advance. Okay, Zhao Yulan nodded. If your uncle is still like this in a few years, it would be a good thing for your aunt to be separated from him. Look, your aunt is about the same age as your aunt, but she looks older than your aunt is more than 10 years older. If life is going well, can you look so old? This person is not afraid of being tired physically, but he is afraid of being miserable in his heart. Hey. Shaking her head, Zhao Yulan looked disappointed. So when this woman gets married, she is really reincarnated for the second time. Zhao Yuanbao's mother came out to get the grass. When she saw Chu Xia and Zhao Yulan standing at the door, she quickly lowered her head and scratched the grass into the dustpan, pretending not to see her mother. Sister-in-law, are you going to cook? She pretended not to see it, but Zhao Yulan couldn't pretend not to see it, so she took the initiative to say hello. Her bent body stiffened slightly. Yuan Baoniang straightened up and pretended to have just seen Zhao Yulan and Chu Xia. Yulan, it's you and Chu Xia. My eyes are not very good. I just took a look and didn't recognize it. I'm afraid I felt uncomfortable shouting the wrong thing, so I didn't dare to say anything. My eyes are blurry as I get older, and sometimes I can't see clearly. Zhao Yulan took 2 steps forward and invited with a smile, Sister-in-law, don't do anything for lunch. We are making dumplings here. Come and eat them together then. Yuan Baoniang quickly waved her hand. No, I have everything ready-made, just a matter of fire. After 2 years, Yuan Baoniang completely collapsed. She used to be a slightly plump woman, but she was as thin as a stick. If she didn't know better, she would have thought she was in her 70s or 80s. Losing a child in middle age is really life-threatening. As if hiding from death, Yuan Baoniang pulled a few handfuls of them, picked up the dustpan and hurried home without even having time to say goodbye. Hey! With a heavy sigh, Zhao Yulan turned around and walked to her daughter. As soon as Yuan Bao leaves, this family will be over. So, happiness needs to be compared. Just now I felt that my aunt was very pitiful, but when I saw Aunt Yuan Bao, I felt that except for life, everything else is really trivial. Mom, go back and see your father. If they need anything, we can help if we can. Although Zhao Yuan Bao is not a guy, Uncle Yuan Bao and Aunt Yuan Bao are still very good. I used to come to my grandma's house, and they treated me well, but I was a junior. If I went there, it would easily make them upset, so I better not hang out in front of them. Zhao Yulan nodded. Okay, let's go to your sister-in-law's house this afternoon. I haven't seen her for several months. I'm really worried about it. Okay, my sister-in-law hasn't seen these two little bastards yet. She just happened to take them over to show her to her. By the way, I asked if Xiaoxiang's wedding date has been set. My sister-in-law didn't want to trouble us, so she didn't say anything when she wrote the letter. Although she and the elders there is nothing to do with Lin village anymore, but the relationship with my sister-in-law can never be broken. Zhao Yulan looked at her daughter with a serious face. We can't break up with your sister-in-law. Your sister-in-law took half of the credit for our family to be able to survive in the past. Moreover, if it weren't for your sister-in-law, your father wouldn't have been able to find the roots. Because of your close relationship with us, your sister-in-law is not well received by Dalin village. It would be really ungrateful for us to distance ourselves from her again. Mom said, okay, let's go in, and is looking for us. Faintly hearing Li Aiwan's voice, Chu Xia pulled Zhao Yulan back to the yard. You two are together every day, how many things have you never finished talking about? Looking at the two mothers coming in from outside, Li Aiwan rolled her eyes in dissatisfaction and scolded. Auntie, are you jealous? Chu Xia hugged her arm in a funny way. You have grandchildren now, do you need to be jealous? Yulan, you have to take good care of this girl. Her mouth is becoming more and more unforgiving. How can Mr. Xiaozhou tolerate such a big official? She has to be in charge of her every day. That's outrageous, isn't it? Well. Zhao Yulan shook her head helplessly. She has become a mother, so what do I care about? Li Aiwan snorted. Don't say she is a mother. Even if she is a grandmother, you can still control her. You are her mother. Who do you care about? Chu Xia looked at her funny. Auntie, who made you angry? Why are you pointing all the anger at me? The novel Marriage First, Love First will have more new content on the official WeChat platform, and there will also be 100 lucky draw gift for everyone. Open WeChat now, click on the plus sign in the upper right corner, add friend, search the official account Dread and follow it. Hurry up, R1152.